Every country on Earth is in debt. The United States alone owes more than $38 trillion, the highest level in its history. The European Union carries around $14 trillion. Japan is close to $9 trillion. Even oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia and export powerhouses like Germany and China all owe staggering amounts. So here's the question no one asks. If everyone owes money, who is actually owed? The answer isn't what you think. Welcome to the Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide. Because in finance, nothing is ever as simple as it appears. The global debt paradox. Debt is not just a burden, it is the hidden architecture of the modern world. Every war, every financial crisis, every boom and every collapse rests on this invisible scaffolding of promises. Today, the planet is drowning in over $315 trillion of debt, nearly 3 times the size of the global economy. And if you follow the chain of creditors far enough, you uncover an unsettling truth. The world doesn't owe money to anyone in particular. It owes it to itself. But that doesn't mean everyone benefits equally. Where national debt really began. Long before credit cards, banking apps, or digital transfers, national debt was born not on Wall Street, but on the battlefield. In 1694, England was locked in war with France and running out of gold. Desperate, the king turned to wealthy merchants. The deal was simple and revolutionary. Money now, in exchange for a permanent stream of interest guaranteed by future taxes. To manage this system, the Bank of England was created. For the first time in history, a state could spend money it didn't yet have, and lenders received something priceless, a government promise that could be traded, bought, and sold. This was the birth of the government bond, the seed of the modern financial system. When debt became power. France adopted the model. The Netherlands refined it. The newly independent United States used it to fund its revolution and expand westward. National debt was no longer a symbol of failure. It became a measure of credibility. Because the ability to borrow was the ability to rule. Ancient empires conquered land to extract gold. Modern empires learned something more powerful. They could borrow the future itself. Governments no longer conquer territory for wealth. They issue bonds to extract interest. The battlefield moved. It is no longer fought with soldiers. It is fought on balance sheets. Debt, the world's most powerful export. Fast forward 3 centuries. Debt has become the world's most powerful export. The United States owes over $38 trillion. Japan over $9 trillion. Global borrowing grows by nearly $1 trillion every 100 days. Every nation owes, every bank lends, and every citizen, through taxes, savings, and pensions, is both a debtor and a creditor. So who's really holding the other end of the rope? Who owns America's debt? Let's start with the United States. Of the $38 trillion outstanding, roughly half is publicly held. And here's the surprise. About 2/3 of that is owned by Americans. Banks, pension funds, mutual funds, insurance companies, even the Federal Reserve itself. The remaining third, about $9 trillion, is held overseas. Japan holds roughly $1 trillion, China around $800 billion. So when people say the U.S. is in debt to China, that's true, but only for about 2% of the total. Most of America's debt is owed to America itself. It's a circular mirror. The global debt loop. And this circularity isn't uniquely American. Japan lends to the U.S. lends to Europe through the IMF. Europe lends to developing nations via the World Bank, and developing nations lend back by parking their reserves in Western bonds. every country holds someone else's IOU. It's like a poker table where every player borrowed chips from the next. The only rule keeping the game alive: nobody stands up. The real power: markets and central banks. Behind every government bond is a vast web of institutions: hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, central banks. They decide who borrows cheaply and who pays a premium just to survive. When confidence disappears, currencies collapse, governments fall, entire economies can be rewritten overnight. Democracy decides who governs, markets decide who survives. And standing at the center of it all is the ultimate market maker, the central bank. Why money is debt? Central banks don't just manage debt, they manufacture it. Every time the Federal Reserve or the ECB buys government bonds, new money is created out of nothing in exchange for a promise. The liability on one balance sheet becomes the asset on another. Every dollar in circulation represents a debt somewhere else. There is no such thing as debt-free money. Every bill, every coin, every digital dollar carries an invisible IOU. When confidence breaks. This system runs on one thing: confidence. When that confidence cracks, we see what debt really means. Greece, 2010. Bond markets panicked. Interest rates exploded. The IMF and ECB stepped in, but rescue came at a price: austerity, unemployment, a lost generation. Argentina, Sri Lanka. When the system breaks, the creditors suddenly become visible. The shocking truth. Here's the reality of the 21st century. Debt is not designed to be repaid. It is designed to be rolled over. New loans replace old ones. Old debts are refinanced. The balance sheet resets. Governments don't plan to eliminate their debt. Not tomorrow, not in 10 years, not ever. This isn't a conspiracy. It's policy. Why debt can't be paid off. If the U.S. somehow paid off every dollar of its debt, banks would lose their safest asset. Pensions would collapse. The money supply would shrink. Deflation would hit. Paying off the debt wouldn't save the system. It would destroy it. Debt is the foundation of modern finance.
Debt and inequity. When we say we owe it to ourselves, that's only half the truth. Interest payments don't flow evenly. They flow upward from workers and taxpayers to institutions and investors. Debt is not just a national issue. It is a class transfer. That's why inequality and global indebtedness rise together. Final realization. Creditors aren't villains. Debtors aren't victims. They are two sides of the same engine. The real danger begins when that engine runs out of fuel, when new borrowing can no longer keep pace with old promises. That's when the question, who is the creditor, stops being abstract and becomes deeply personal. Ending. Strong close. At the top of this system, there is no single face to blame. Not China, not Wall Street, not the IMF. All of them and all of us. Debt once meant bondage. Today, it means balance. But if that balance breaks, the illusion ends, and we're forced to remember what debt truly is: a promise that cannot be kept forever. Call to action. If this changed the way you see the world, subscribe. History doesn't just record the past, it explains the present, and I'll show you where to look.